one thing I want to point out is this is my Stay Wet palette, and I haven't touched it. I just had the lid on all week, and they're still wet. Now, had I had them not covered with the lid, these would have been so rock hard solid, I would not have got any color out of them at all. So something that covers your paints when you're painting in acrylics is a good idea. Well, it's a good idea in oils too, but for a different reason. So if you want to preserve your paints from one week to the next, or from the one day to the next, cover them, have a Stay Wet palette. Stay wet because there's a bit of blotting paper underneath which is wet, and the paint is on a piece of paper on top of the blotting paper. So you're not painting on the blotting, you don't dump the paint on the blotting paper, because all that will do is take the water out of the paint. But it does give it an atmosphere, a wet atmosphere, so it still is preserved. Now, let's look at what I've got here. I've got my picture more or less roughed out, but it's pretty crude, let's face it. And acrylic doesn't have to be crude. A lot of people think that because the colors are so sort of in your face that you're going to end up with something that is, well, you know, not very carefully painted, not very sensibly painted. There's quite a lot of work to do on this, actually, and I'm currently wondering where to begin, which is why I am talking instead of actually getting on with the painting. I need a bit more white anyway, so I can't remember where I put the white, so I'll put it somewhere else. Remember, when you take your paint out, to put your lid back, because otherwise you will lose the whole tube of paint, which is not fun, because they're not cheap. Right, I think I've got what I want. So there are various things wrong with this. For a start, that line is at too much of an angle, I find there, so I need to bring it down and flatten it a bit, because it doesn't look as though this is in the same plane as that. That's supposed to be wet sand, and this is the black water. And it doesn't look like that now. It just looks like a sort of triangle stuck in the middle of nowhere. So I've got to bring that line down and maybe bring in a bit of something. I might need to correct something around here with black paint, but I can do. You can do that. It's no sin to use the black paint. It's just I was trying to show you that what we were doing was negative painting. We're painting the back. Supposing I start with this area here like I did last time and work out from there and see if I can soften things a bit. I think that was lemon with a bit of white. There's a lot of white. We started off with lemon, and I'm going to be a bit more careful now about this mast. Old age and infirmary means that my hand isn't very steady. Yeah. So it just has to be, and I can use thicker paint now that I'm working with more care. I've got my basic painting done. So, and if again I approach it from this side, just tidy up the line a bit, you know, like this. Oops, done it again. Never mind that. I can put that right, you know, can be put right. Because I've gone over that one too. That I'm not going to do that till the very, very bitter end, because there'll be lots of parts of it to tidy up, and if you start to do them now, you're going to be held up forever, and you're going to mix black paint in with your colors, which will not be a good sort. So I'm taking care to get the line a bit more like it should be, and at the same time taking the opportunity to thicken up the paint so that the black is not showing through. Now my aim there is to get this part fairly smooth. So be careful about the joining areas. I want to get it fairly smooth if I can. This part is quite serene, and that's how we want it to be. Yeah. Now, one of the things about acrylic paint is that it dries very, very fast, especially if it's on top of other acrylic paint. So this is going to dry too fast for me to actually manage to meld that with that, which is what I want to do. So that, I think, was a bit of raw sienna mixed in with what I'm going to do is attempt to get this a bit nearer in color. That's better. The black doesn't show through, it makes a huge difference. So I'm just pulling that down there. And while the bit underneath is still wet, just sort of meld it in with your fingers. A bit. Now the bit underneath is practically dry, so that the melding, such as is being done, is pulling the wet paint over it, so that line is a little less evident. Just dragging the brush across it, really, to see if I can. Again, I want to keep this bit fairly smooth. Oh, Steve. My hand isn't as steady as it used to be. And if I want it smooth, I really have to go across rather than up and down. In narrow places like this, it makes life difficult. Not too worried about the top edge because, again, I can pull that together by working wet over dry. It is possible to get quite airy sort of look with acrylic paint if you catch it when it's damp. I'm basically grazing the dry paint underneath with a sort of blur of the color that it's above to get a more blended sort of look to it. And even now, I've not been careful enough. with the right. So the next one was a bit of umber, I think, with a lot of white paint. So I'll see what I can do for that. Yes, it is that sort of color. It's quite a dramatic dark cloud, and I don't think I want it as dramatic as that. I want it a bit more dramatic than that, but there we are. Ah. Mm. Now, if I just graze that color, pull it down with my finger, can you see what it's doing? I'm sort of creating a blurring the lines so that it's not a series of sharp lines, unless I want them. So that is, in this case, I don't want them there. It's drying on the brush, I see. You also have to be careful that it's the same on both sides of the mast. You know, the mast doesn't stop it happening. It gives you a breather to get your blurry bits in. I think that's a bit better. Let's take it up here. Now we can make sort of cloudy sort of shapes, because this is cloudy up here. Ah, but of course, yeah, you want it straight. It should be a bit darker, shouldn't it? Glad when I got rid of these wretched masts. I can, this is actually a building, I think. So you want quite a pristine straight edge for that. Ah, I think I'm gonna leave it up there because my arm's practically dead. So I can do that bit by lowering the temperature a bit. Right, okay. Right, so I've rinsed most of that paint off. Now I need to do something about this coming forward. I want to suggest that this is not the sky, so it needs to be that ochre sort of color. But it needs to be, I think, a lot paler than I have it there because it's not looking like light reflected from the sky coming across the sands. It's altogether too dramatic a change. But this time I can go across because that's, well, you know, that's what we're aiming to do. Yes, yellow, ochre, and white back. And this is what sort of line is that anyway? Oh, there's something there. Okay. And of course, the boat has, there's a boat there, I think. Is there? No, there isn't a boat there. It's just bad painting. I mean, I could put a boat there, but that's. And again, I've got a mess on my. These poor masts are going to have to be totally repainted. But by the time we get down here, it should be starting to get a bit darker. And of course, this will overhang the light to some extent over here, because the light isn't coming from up there now, it's coming from the distant horizon. So this part here is going to be a little less brilliant. So I'm going to add a bit more ochre to the mix, she said. To see if I can. Right. Well, I've all been very patient watching me go around these masts. That's supposed to be mildly darker, and I don't see it as being mildly darker. It's about the same tone to me. Come on. Practically painted that one out. Give up on that one. Come on, I want you. This line is wrong. The line should be better. Oh dear. It's a matter of. There we are. Now we're getting there. Now we're cooking on gas. Sorry, I'm being naughty, not talking to you about what I'm doing, but I think you can see what I'm doing. What I'm doing is struggling. Now, I've introduced a bit of variation into the light and shade there to trying to keep them as horizontal as I can, because that makes things lie down. We want to make the change from, I think that's still too bright, but maybe it's not. We'll see when I add the next thing. So if I mix in a bit of umber with that mix there, this is neither one nor the other. Again, putting streaks of this in here so that it's not a sudden transition. Looking for more interesting detail, perhaps, so that you get the feeling of humps and bumps in the mud, where the current has taken the sand and created other things with it. I think what 10, gosh, 10 minutes. It's not enough time in life. Just when you get it right, you try to make it better, and what happens? Show me on. I think that's beginning to look a bit more like the ground lying down. Right, need a bit more of this color. Yeah. It's still too bright, isn't it? No? Evening light is what I'm aiming at. Evening light is what I'm aiming at. Don't know. Oops, that's not what I want. Yeah, if I can make this lot down here a bit less miserable, it might help, mightn't it? We're sort of getting there. It's still a bit clumsy around there. Come on, you can do better than this. Do you talk to yourself while you're painting? All the time. All the time. What have I done now? Yeah, that's too light. Too dark. That's too light. What I'm doing is mixing the paint on the board now. I think that needs to be a bit straighter as well. The people I was talking to about drawing, these lines and angles, to be believable, have to be right. And it's, again, a matter of experience to judge them eventually. So I'm painting the wall, don't I? Oof, mamma mia. Well, you know, you can make a mistake look interesting, can't you? Happenstance. There's too great a difference between those two still. So your consensus is that I ought to make this brighter. Yeah. 6 minutes to achieve nirvana. Yeah. How? Is that working? Right. Okay. No ochre then. Let's ignore the ochre. And by just picking up the paint at random and putting it on, I'm making this more variegated as sand can be. And whoops, two whoopses there. Well, I'm not going to get to the end. I thought this would be 2 weeks, be finished. See how wrong you could be. There, yeah. That's water. Yeah, yeah. When I get there, I'm hoping to make it a bit more believable because it's actually catching the light, so it must be quite shallow. This water is much deeper. This water further back, that's deeper than this bit here. So I think this is practically going to be mud fairly soon, but isn't just yet. And you can but if I don't get this bit right, I'll be constantly faffing on with this bit, And that just makes life difficult all around. There we are. I'll just stand back and have a look at that because I think I finished with the time I've got. And yes, if I make a bit more of the sky higher up, I think that will pull together, will it? The black bits will be more or less left. There will be ghosts of a bit of light catching a roof or something like that. And the boats themselves, the top surface of the boat does catch the light in places, like the gunnels, for instance, that sort of thing. So there's a bit more expression there. But unless I finish the sky at home this weekend, which is a bit unlikely, it's going to be another 2 weeks doing this. And I don't know how your work is progressing enough, whether that would be fair comment. But you can see where I'm going, and you can see how it can be a struggle to get what you want it to be, to work out. But I like the light in the distance. That really bright light is good. I think I need to bring some more of that yellow, pale, creamy yellow, into the sand at the front. Not at the front, near the back, where the horizon is, because the line at the moment is a bit precise. And of course, that weird thing on the top of the mast needs to be sorted out. So yeah, so I'll see if I can actually finish the sky sometime before the next lesson.